Something big is brewing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as following a very surprising decision from another NHL team, a new Leafs target now has become available, and reports and rumors are really starting to escalate surrounding this player. We're going to break it down, discuss what this means going forward, and also discuss how this could impact what the Leafs trade deadline plans are over the next few weeks as things start to escalate there. But before we get into it, quick reminder, if you're part of this 80% or 70%, sorry, who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. And shout out to you guys for your continued support. But there has been some interesting things going on surrounding the NHL, whether that be trade rumors, obviously JT Miller and Morgan Riley, which we covered earlier today. And now we're obviously going to be talking about a very interesting player that has surprisingly become available. And that is, of course, Brandon Saad. Now, Brandon Saad is sacrificing north of $5 million in salary by agreeing to a mutual contract termination. It gives him a fresh start as a free agent who's able to pursue other opportunities. And it's very rare you see a free agent of any, or sorry, a player of any caliber be willing to sacrifice over $5 million in any sort of deal. But Brandon Saad wants a fresh start, and the moment that the Blues and Brandon Saad agreed to this contract termination and the termination of all this, Leafs fans, reporters have started to speculate a little bit how he would be a great fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Darius, I want to get your thoughts. We'll dive into some of the rumors that are circulating here, but Leafs fans are talking about this a lot. He's an interesting player and could be a decent fit for the Leafs here.
Could be an interesting option. I mean, nobody really expected this. He was on a lot of teams' trade boards. We saw like a lot of rumors around Brandon Saad trades, and that, the St. Louis Blues were trying to move him. And they were actively trying to move him. Nobody can take on that $4.5 million cap hit for the production that he brings to the table. That being said, if he was league minimum or something, it wouldn't be that bad. He has 16 points in about 43 games so far this season. So again, he can produce in a depth role, but nobody could take on the $4.5 million cap hit, and certainly not the Leafs. So I think that, this has opened up a new opportunity. He clearly left so much money on the table. Like, he clearly wants to win a Stanley Cup. That's all he cares about doing. He wants to play for a contender. That wasn't going to happen with the Blues. They weren't going to be able to trade him. So he's completely forfeited all his, remaining salary for the rest of the contract. He's now a free agent. He does have to, at the time of this recording, pass through waivers again, which he's going to. So it's going to take about a day until people can start signing him or start looking at that. The Oilers are also, involved in this, so he could potentially sign with the Oilers as well. But I think it's an interesting option for the Leafs. I'm sure that Brad Treliving's going to kick tires on it, do his due diligence. How does this fit with our team? I'm not sure it does fit with the team. We'll get to that later in the video, but it is an interesting situation. We really have never seen something like this in the NHL.
Yeah, and whether it's something big Bruce for the Leafs or any other team, it's a huge surprise that Brandon Saad has become available again. You can look at the JFresh chart here, 61% WAR. Not a very good defender, and scoring at an okay clip, but given his contract, again, you can see here, they announced he'll be placed on unconditional waivers tomorrow for the purpose of mutual contract termination. 32-year-old loses $5.425 million in cash owed per Puckpedia and will be a free agent on Friday. And Friday is when the decision can start to be made surrounding what teams want. You can see in the bottom right there, he has 7 goals and 9 assists in 16 games. Not a great season, and in theory, he would have been under control until 2026, but now that he's a free agent, they'll have to renegotiate any contract. And regarding the Leafs, if you can get him at a league minimum, could start to be interesting. He's obviously a left winger. You can make a case that he would be a better fit than some of the wingers that they have right now, whether that be a Nick Robertson type, Pontus Holmberg, players like that. And again, from Elliot Friedman here, he'll walk away from his remaining salary, but he wants to play in the NHL. Both player and the team felt this gave him the best opportunity to do so. Next year's salary and cap hit was a big hurdle for other teams. And even with the salary cap going up over next season and into the future seasons, when you're only giving around a 32 point, per season pace here, it's not good enough for the salary that he's earned. You can just spend it on a lot better assets, even if you can get some league minimum guys that won't be as good as that, but are pretty dang close. So I don't know. It's very interesting. And then this just started opening up the question, Darius, about the Toronto Maple Leafs. If Brandon Saad wants to play for a playoff team with plenty of forward jobs up for grabs, I know a team obviously talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs here, and ultimately makes a ton of sense. In theory, it makes a ton of sense, but there will be a ton of other teams lobbying for his services. That being said, if he give up $5 million to make a run for the playoffs, the Leafs are one of the best, even though, fans aren't happy right now. They've lost a few games. They are still one of the best teams to join in if you want to have a chance to win a cup, even though their playoff success has been very lackluster over the past handful of seasons.
I think a lot of people too are expecting Brandon Saad to sign tomorrow for league minimum as well, or close to maybe $1 million or something like that, because for his point production and everything that's happened here, you're not going to get more than that, right? Like, you would assume that that's exactly what's going to happen. He's only going to sign for about $1 million. So I think, looking at the Leafs cap situation, they can afford that. And I don't know about, the rest of the fans, the whole fan base, but as of late, a lot of things have been getting very stale. Like the bottom six is a tough look. They are not producing whatsoever. So I wonder if you like tell him, hey, listen, we're gonna spend some cap here right now because the trade deadline, we're only in February. Trade deadline's still a ways away. We're gonna spend a little bit of cap right now to sign you. You're gonna come into the lineup and you're going to be hungry. You want to play for a contender. Let's see what you can do and you can add to our lineup. And then if we see that we'd rather keep you, right, we'll just trade somebody else. We'll just get rid of cap in that way. We'll just start shedding cap and make some trades at the deadline to make way for you into the playoffs because they still have a couple guys in LTR and stuff like that. So I think there's a road where this does work. I don't know where he fits exactly though. You have Max Pacioretty, right? When you look at the wings, it's getting kind of, there is a bit of a log jam. They still want a third line center. So where does Domi end up playing? Stuff like that. So there is a bit of a log jam, but I kind of like the idea of the healthy competition thing that was happening at the start of the year, where you bring in Brandon Saad. He's hungry. Maybe he beats somebody else out for their job and he ends up, in that spot because, there's a lot of stale play going on right now and the bottom six is not producing whatsoever. So I think it's an interesting idea. I just don't, at the end of the day, think it fits. And it's probably not the Leafs that are, where he's going to end up.
I mean, the bottom four has been, or the bottom three. I mean, the fourth line. Has been pretty bad lately. And I mean, their production. We saw yesterday. Ryan Reeves. Everyone in the fourth line played under 8 minutes. You had Lorentz. You had David Kemp. Both play 7. You had Ryan Reeves play 4 minutes 59 seconds, I believe. And you can see here from Kiprios, JT Bourne, and Sam McKee. I wouldn't say I'm 100% excited about the idea and what the price would be, but you do see the fit. And I mean, you assume the price would be something around league minimum. I don't think that Brandon Saad's going to hold out for a big contract. The only way I can see him getting more is if there's multiple teams bowing for his services that are all playoff contenders, and then maybe a team offers a little bit more. We thought when John Klingberg was going around that he was going to get the league minimum. He got a little bit more, would have counted more towards the Leafs cap hit, which is one of the reasons I'm sure the Leafs didn't sign him, and they do play him in a couple nights. So it now becomes very interesting. You look at the roster here a little bit, and again, where he would fit, whether he replaces Nick Robertson, whether he replaces, you would assume at this point, Connor Dewar maybe. It starts to get interesting because they don't have, the depth in the bottom six is there on paper, but they haven't been performing at all. I could see a direct swap for Nick Robertson, and then you trade Nick Robertson at the deadline. I think that would be probably the most likely outcome if they do get a guy like Brandon Saad here. So it's very interesting. And regarding, or even maybe replaces Stephen Lorentz or someone like that, even though I don't think I want that, he would have to replace somebody because this is the lines right now, and this is with Pontus Holmberg out.
The other thing with Brandon Saad is he brings Stanley Cup pedigree. He's won the Stanley Cup twice before. He knows what it takes to win. And yes, he's older now. He's a little bit slower, all of that. But again, at league minimum, it might be an interesting idea to bring him in. But who does he replace? That's the question, right? Like you just brought up. Nick Robertson, again, I like Nick Robertson. I've been a big defender of Nick Robertson on this channel, but I don't see a future with him on the Leafs past this season anyway. So I wonder if they look at, offloading him at the trade deadline for assets in some way or in a bigger trade package, right? So obviously Brandon Saad wouldn't have to come via trade. It would just be a signing. So it could be very interesting. Again, you already have Max Pacioretty. Injuries have been happening. Max Pacioretty's been injured, right? Like Nyes is out right now. They're dealing with a bunch of injuries right now. So they do happen. So maybe, more the merrier in terms of bringing guys on, but there is still a salary cap that you have to think about. There are needs that you have still, like a third line center. Brandon Saad is a winger, right? So there's certain things you got to think about, and maybe I might pass the Leafs by. And there's other teams, again, like I mentioned, the Oilers, where I think that it could be a better fit. So maybe they beat the Leafs to the decision making there because it just makes more sense for them right off the bat there. So it's going to be interesting to watch because it's going to come down over the course of the next day or two.
Yeah. Let us know below what your thoughts are. One quick note, Austin Matthews was named captain of Team USA, so it should be interesting to see what he does at the Four Nations Cup. And most importantly, the Leafs need to start winning some games, and they can start on Saturday. But let us know down below, do you see Brandon Saad as a fit? And do you think the Leafs will get him? Let us know. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.